This is Pat Don with Globalyceum. Recently, in a webinar concerning hybrid education, we had a number of questions about using Globalyceum's group grading with breakout rooms and video conferencing systems like Zoom. So I wanted to explain just in this 2-minute little webinar meeting on Zoom how this is done, the best way to do it, in case you're interested. This is a Zoom panel where you set up Zoom meetings. If you're in a synchronous setting or you are trying to set up breakout rooms for online teaching, you would go in here, like say on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you would set up recurring meetings. And in those recurring meetings setups, you would also ask for breakout rooms. Now, the easiest way to do this is you want to have a Zoom breakout room set up so that you can come back to it all throughout the semester or the term. And you want the students to be built into these breakout rooms as into groups, okay? Now, the best way to do this is to click on Create Rooms. And what happens with Create Rooms is all of your students have to check into Zoom. Zoom can't create rooms without students checking in. So in the early part of your semester, one of your first class meetings, you would want to ask all your students to come into Zoom, essentially have these create rooms set up, and the students would come in and Zoom will automatically put the students into rooms on a random basis, okay? Now, later on, you might want to move the students around in Zoom. But initially, what you're doing is you're just trying to get them into rooms. And probably at the beginning of the semester, you don't really know who's who amongst these students. So once you do that, and the students are in these rooms and they're in recurring meetings, Zoom will keep bringing back that same room until you change which students are in which rooms. So you want to do this in the first few meetings. You want to set aside a little time for students to form breakout rooms, okay? Now, the next thing you want to do is go over to Globalyceum group grading, and you select an activity. You know, you can select one of Globalyceum's activity. This one is called Jacob Riis's Photos. It's from the American history of Globalyceum. Or you can go ahead and make your own in our activities and resources and essentially select that. You set up in the assessment setting window, you say, I want group grading, and then you will get this screen, okay? Now, Globalyceum is set up so that the rooms, you go and you basically ask for however many groups you had. Let's say in Zoom, you said, I want 5 groups with, say, 6 students in each group or 4 students in each group. You would do the same thing here in Globalyceum. You'd ask for 5 groups, okay? Globalyceum will just randomly set the students who are in Globalyceum, who have signed up for Globalyceum, in these random groups, but you will be able to move them around. You'll simply drag and drop them to whatever they are. So you'll want to go and see what you have on Zoom as breakout rooms, and you'll make Globalyceum's groups mirror the Zoom breakout rooms. So you drag and drop so that the students will be here. Now, the breakout rooms just make it possible for those students to talk to each other in a group. They're in like a separate room. But here in Globalyceum, the idea is you're going to be able to, essentially, the students will be able to submit assignments to you, and you'll be able to grade them. So for example, here in this group, the group leader, which is designated by this little symbol, is George. When George and the other students in this group go into Globalyceum, everybody has to check in. If you don't check in at the same time that George is opening the assignment, you won't get credit. But George is the only one who can actually access the assignment for typing or printing or answering questions or whatever. The other students are simply participating with George in the Zoom breakout room, okay? These other students will receive credit for whatever George turns into you, but they have to be there in the room at that moment in time. Now, in subsequent assignments, you'll be able to move the group leader around. You don't have group leaders in Zoom, you just have groups, because all that Zoom does is make it possible to talk to each other. But here in Globalyceum, you can decide who is going to have access by simply dragging and dropping, you know, into the group leader position, the person who's going to be doing the submitting. Now, once those students submit the assignment to you, they'll appear, if it's a subjectively graded assignment, they will appear here in Globalyceum's Easy Grader. And you'll see here's group 5, and the group leader was Tatiana. She was the one who submitted it. You can tell because here's, her little symbol. And Patricia and Vinay also participated that day, but Iris wasn't there that day. So what this is telling you is that this group assignment you're about to grade is submitted by Tatiana. You give credit to Patricia and Vinay, but Iris will not receive credit because she was not there. And then you as a professor can go in and you can drag and drop comments into the group assignment so that you're grading it, and you can give points, and it will submit it to the Globalyceum gradebook, which if you're integrated with one of the learning management systems like Canvas or Blackboard or D2L or whatever, it will go, if you're integrated with Globalyceum, you'll be able to have those grades submitted back to the LMS. That's another system where we'll explain later. Now, to just summarize here, it's a 1-2 setup. First, you go into Zoom breakout rooms, you set up the recurring meetings, and then you create the rooms sort of on the fly in a class meeting before your first assignment. Globalyceum group grading, you go over, you select the assignment, you mark that you want the select group grading for that assignment. Then you go in and you drag and drop, and mirror the groups to your Zoom breakout rooms, and you select the group leaders. And then once the students submit, you use Easy Grader.